I almost died from complications from a plastic surgery that was elective, that I chose, almost killed me. And this is the story of that. There are a lot of little lead up points to this. So let's get into it. And you might be thinking, you're pretty positive for someone who accidentally almost died. Yeah, well, if you're not laughing, you're crying. So let's just take it as we can. Anyway, there's a lot of points that lead up to this plastic surgery that I chose to get. It was a circumferential body lift, which means that they remove excess skin from your front and your back. I'm going to make some disclaimers. Number one, trigger warning. I'm going to talk about my weight loss journey. Number two, I do not think that having excess skin makes you any less of a person. I still have some on my legs. I still have some on my arms. I still have some in other places. Like, I'm not saying that you need to get this surgery and that it's the best thing. Obviously, I mean, I literally almost died. So, but that being said, this was just a choice that I decided to make, not because it's the better way to be, just because it was a personal preference. So I had a major weight loss journey. I lost about 130 pounds. And another disclaimer, just going to say, like, being one way or another is not better. Being a healthy person is better. And you can be healthy at many different weights. At my highest weight, I was not a healthy person. And in my journey toward a healthier life, I, in turn, wound up losing a bunch of weight, which is not necessarily always the case, but this is just my story. So I lost 130 pounds and ended up with a lot of excess skin, my front, my back. And you can Google this surgery, but basically it's like a tummy tuck that they do on the front, and then basically like a tummy tuck, but on the back. It's extensive, it's painful, it's long, it's expensive. It's a million different things, but it is what I wanted. At the time, I was 25 or 26, and I decided to go for it. So I found a surgeon that I really liked. And even finding a surgeon was the most interesting process, okay? Because I was young. And I remember going to this one surgeon's office and walking in. And the woman behind the desk said to me, "You know, this is expensive, right?" Like as if I wasn't sure, didn't know that it was going to cost a lot of money. And I was like, yeah. She goes, "And you have to be at your goal weight before you get the surgery." I'm standing there after losing 130 pounds, keeping it off for like years and years, being like, so maybe if you just work to get to your goal weight, keep it off for a year. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Anyway, I ended up finding a clinic that I really liked. I'm not going to mention any names because obviously I'm going to get into like a deep dive of what happened. But another disclaimer is that the clinic I went to was amazing, and I would go there again if I were ever going to get another procedure. This was like a fluke situation. It was nobody's fault. It just happens sometimes with surgeries. And also, I'm not a medical professional. So if you're hearing me say things and you're like, that's wrong, that doesn't make any sense, well, that's because I'm not a nurse or a doctor. And I just don't have those expertise. Think about this for a long time. I booked the surgery. I get all prepped. You have to like do a bunch of stuff for the months leading up. And surgery day comes around. My mom comes to town. We go to the doctor. We do all the pre-op stuff. And I go into the room. Now, for a surgery this extensive, they usually take like 7 to 8 hours. So when you're under for that long, it's not the same as like a boob job or other plastic surgery procedures or a nose job or anything. You actually have to spend the night at the hospital. So I'm prepared to spend a night. I go in for the surgery. It takes, from what I'm understanding, a little bit longer than it was meant to. And then I come out, and I guess they had a little trouble with me, like, so dramatic, right? Was not sprouting back to life as I should, which it happens sometimes, I think. Doing all these tests on me, and I'm supposed to be like up and walking after, like, at some point in the 24 hours when you're still at the hospital, and I'm not. So I start doing all these blood tests, and then something called my hemoglobin. Don't know what that is, but it was low. So they give me 2 blood transfusions where I'm laying in bed after this plastic surgery, like 3 days later, and when I'm supposed to be home, and they're pumping bags of somebody else's blood into my body. And I'm like, what the heck have I gotten myself into? So after several days of this and tests and amazing nurses and doctors, they're like, okay, you're good to go. You can go home. Because I'm finally up on my feet. They've taken out is that like a catheter that you pee in? I had one of those. And I go home. And my mom is staying with me in my 1-bedroom apartment, just helping me, taking care of me, whatever. And everything seems to be actually going pretty good, right? Like my friends are coming to visit. I'm like out and about, not out and about, but like walking around and watching TV and on my computer and all that stuff. Up and down to the bathroom. I can like cook meals, go to the fridge, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe 5 days in to me being home, I wake up in the middle of the night in excruciating pain. Excruciating pain. I'm screaming like at the top of my lungs. Like I can't explain this, the pain. And it was weird because the pain was like mid back. Like it was like in the middle of my spine, but that wasn't really where my surgery was at all. So my mom's there and I'm like, okay, maybe it's because I had stopped taking my pain meds. So I just took another one and it got a little better. And then I woke up in the middle of the night, the next night, with a really high fever, just drenched in sweat. And I was like, this feels wrong because I'm in so much pain. So we call an ambulance and they come and they're like, well, our due diligence is to tell you, like, you should go to the hospital. But if you don't, like, they weren't dragging my ass out. That's all I'm saying, because they were like, it might be fine kind of thing. I went to the hospital. I took the ambulance ride. It's expensive, to the hospital. And they did all these blood tests and these blood cultures. And they sent me back on my merry way. So I went home because the blood tests came back fine. 24 hours later, which is how long it takes to get the results of the blood cultures back, my phone rings in the middle of the night. It's a nurse from the hospital saying that they just got my blood cultures back and that I have a septic blood infection and that I need to go to the hospital right now. So I'm looking at my mom being like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And she was like, I don't think so. Like, but she panics like I panicked. We're like, I'm going to die. She drives me back to the hospital right away. And I start Googling, how often do people die of a septic blood infection? And Google tells the girl that is panicking for her life that 1 in 3 people die of sepsis in the hospital. Cool. Okay. So we go back to the hospital. It's the wrong hospital. They transport me to another hospital. Immediately check me in. So I'm thinking, this is not going to be good. And then they hook me up with this team called the Infectious Diseases Team, which might be the scariest name for a team in existence, especially when they're working with you. And I'm already a hypochondriac, okay? So I'm sitting there going, I just went through this major weight loss journey. I said, that is not enough. This is my final step. And then I did it. And now I'm going to die. Why did I do this? Why couldn't I have just loved me as I was? What a strong ass woman to get this far, just to die here. Come on. I'm there just waiting, asking so many questions. All of my wounds, I'm sorry, this is also explicit. All of my wounds are infected, all of them. And they're all spreading God, it was so scary. And I'm asking when can I leave? When can I leave? When can I leave? Nobody has any answers. I was there for weeks. And every day thinking, when does this end? Does it end? Do I just not wake up one day? Does my heart stop working? Does this spread? Which it happens a lot. And I was just thinking am I going to lose limbs? Am I going to not survive? I don't know. It's just the thoughts, right? You spiral. And I am not good at staying positive in stressful situations. I was a disaster. I was a huge bitch. I was mean to my mom. I was an awful patient to deal with. I literally thought I was going to die. I was like, it doesn't matter anyway. All I'm going to do is die. Kind of regret that. Not kind of, I do. Just the way that I was panic acting, even when you are about to die, you should still be kind to people. I was nice, obviously, but certain parts of it, I think you could have been a better person in those moments. But I really, really thought something was going to go seriously wrong. I remember even sitting there with my mom and apologizing to her for all the things that I've put her through in my life. On the day, there was a couple of days where I was just freezing cold and couldn't move. And I remember, like, because no one could tell me that I'm doing fine or that everything's fine. And they couldn't even really figure out exactly what the treatment plan was. So I know I'm being dramatic, but I literally went to my mom and was like, I just want you to like know who you are outside of being my mom. Because if I don't live through this, I can't even stand the thought of you not having a daughter, you know? And I know that's so dramatic, but I remember that being the thing. I was like, this is not only a me thing, this is a you thing. And she's so worried and I'm so worried. Anyway, the dramatics. That was like several weeks before I got out. I did get out, obviously. I'm alive. But it was really scary. And they actually had to operate again. So they had to go in after a bunch of tests and stuff. They had to kind of basically suck the infection out because it was like a big blob of infected fluid right there in the middle. Kind of like redo a couple things, which in turn, because you could kind of get a new belly button during this surgery. So I lost my first belly button to my second one and then lost my second one to my third one. I've had 3 belly buttons and you know which one was the best? The middle one. I like the middle one better than the one I have now, but that's fine. At the end of it all, because I got it done, I will comment on the results. Like, they did a really good job. It was a clean surgery, surgery-wise, like the before and after. Like, if you saw, you'd be like, oh, he did a good job. Yes. And I am happy with the results. I'm not happy I almost died. But these things can happen to anybody. Like, you can get an infection like this from any kind of surgery. It doesn't have to be an aesthetic plastic surgery. It can be any kind. And that's just kind of the risk you run and the risk you take. And before I did that surgery, there were other ones that I wanted. And I'm not going to lie, I still think about doing other ones. Like, I kind of want to do the arm one. Because, like, trying to find the way to phrase this properly, it's exhausting to be self-conscious all the time. Me getting that surgery was my way of thinking that that was where it would end. Like, it was a final step and then I'd be good to go. And it doesn't work like that. There's not a final step in your journey, in your self-love bubble, because there's always going to be a next thing. And I remember after getting it done thinking, fuck. Well, there's still all this self-hatred in me and all this self-acceptance to be learned. And you almost died and it wasn't even enough, you know? But it was just it was a life-altering experience. And I think about it all the time. It's a bizarre anniversary that every year I celebrate that I'm alive still. I celebrate the journey that I've been on. And I guess the journey that I've yet to take. But if you are thinking of doing something like this is not meant to deter you or to change your mind. This is just meant to raise awareness, be careful, keep your wounds clean, choose a good doctor, and take care of yourself. And also, just know that this is a step in the direction that you want to go, but it's not the last one. And I welcome you to using it as like a stepping stone, but it won't be the finish line. Nothing ever will be. But that's okay. That's just being human. Anyway, that's my story. And I hope you enjoyed it because I'm really new to these long form videos. So hopefully this wasn't too overwhelming and long. Okay, bye. Love you. Mwah.